Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of the Lollygaggers Dynasty Recap. I'm your host, Zang. Unfortunately, I am going to be solo again this week. My co-host Ace had something come up, so he's not available right now. I'll be walking you through the week though, no worries. Interesting week for sure. A lot of negative points. I think two of the biggest negatives I've ever seen, and in a long time of watching baseball, two of the worst pitching performances I've ever seen. I've never heard the first out has been recorded as like a big deal, but when you give up 8 runs before that happens, it's kind of a big deal. Got some stuff to go over this week. Obviously, a surprise change in the standings. Some major teams who took rather significant losses, or one major team in particular, I should say. So I'll be walking you through with all the usual segments, and we will get started with our matchup minute. I'll start off with our first matchup, which is Big Peach versus Mike. Now, Mike opened up our beginning of the week on Monday with a 40-point performance to Big Peach's 33. Followed it with 90 to 50, 139 to 51 on Wednesday there. Thanks to Bo Bichette's 15 points on Friday. He got another 18 points from Cal Raleigh and took a 19 to 16 lead on that day from Big Peach. I think you can see where this is going. Mike did go wire to wire on this one, winning each day, Monday through Sunday. Very impressive showing from him. And although, look, Big Peach had some strong performances. We saw Luis Castillo and Jacob deGrom with 27 and 26 respectively on Sunday. Robbie Ray had 33 on Saturday, but his performances weren't quite enough to take down Mike, who has continued to show what a impressive team he has in this league. After all that trade mania, I kind of posed the question to Ace, did Mike get better? Safe to say he did. He is looking absolutely unstoppable right now. His best batter for the week was Cal Raleigh, who also happened to be one of our best batters. Big dumper himself, 49.9 points. I believe he's near the lead in homers for like the league and MLB. Love to see that from a catcher. I know I've said before, one of my favorite things in baseball is a catcher who's a legit middle of the order lineup kind of guy, and they've certainly got that out there in Seattle with Cal Raleigh. His best pitcher for the week, actually in a little bit of a surprise, was Tommy Kahnle, a relief pitcher in Detroit, who put up 38.5 points. He had some obviously very solid performances from his starting pitching as well, but that Tommy Kahnle did show out as his best pitcher for the week. Fortunately, not all of his performances were great. On Saturday, we saw Brandon Pfaadt put up one of those surprisingly terrible performances I mentioned, putting up minus 26 points. Ouch. On the same day, Alec Boehm put up 10. I know those names are a little bit connected for Mike, especially when we consider Jazz Chisholm as well, who I believe is over on Al Martinet's team now. They were, of course, all traded for one another, and I know that Mike at the time said, hey, Boehm is, kind of a throw-in, kind of a lateral move to Jazz, and then Pfaadt is the big piece. And although, look, Pfaadt has been good, this performance aside, Boehm's been excellent as well. And, unfortunately, the Jazz injury complicates things a little bit over on the other side, but looking like one of the better trades of the year for Mike, who has been doing quite a bit of training. So, it's good to see that he got one pretty good one in there. Over on Big Peach's side, we had Tommy Edman, who put up 23.6 points, and then Jacob deGrom, who put up 33.6. Mike did, as I said, end up winning the matchup 488 to 400. That's an 88-point differential. Bumps Mike up to 7-3, and Peach down back to 500 at 5-5. Our next matchup is with another superpower in the league, if you will, with both Bros and O's, who's been progressively climbing his way back up after a little bit of a slow start. Started off pretty strong on Monday. Again, 34-21. He's going up against serial chillers, pardon me. Josh Naylor had 10 points and Shohei had 11. He seems pretty good. On Tuesday, he had a very impressive three-digit day, 150 points to just 48 from serial chillers. Bose had 12 points from Newt Barr, 20 from Logan Webb, 27 from Joe Ryan. Over on the other side, although he only did rack up 48, Tyler McGill had 19 points for serial chillers. Nice performance from the starting pitcher. Slower days on Wednesday and Thursday, but Bose held the lead through both. On Friday, though, things kicked right back up into gear. He scored 116 points. Shohei racking up 14, Eflin 36, and David Peterson 23. On the other side, serial chillers, who scored 63 points, got 41 of them from Andrew Abbott. Andrew Abbott's been a really, really impressive starting pitcher this year. He showed up a number of times. I've been surprised how often we're seeing his names while making these. And unfortunately had something in the negatives on the other side with a -17 performance from Jeffrey Springs, who's been a bit mercurial this year. Sometimes he's got that ace stuff that we saw in Tampa. Sometimes he's got the batting practice stuff that we saw back in 2020 with the Red Sox. So he's definitely a tricky pitcher, but hey, you get him on the right day, you're certainly getting some pretty impressive performances. Serial chillers punched back pretty hard on Saturday, putting up 105 points thanks to J-Ram's 12, Kwan's 11, George Springer's 18, and Bailey Falter with 30. On the other side, Josh Naylor put up 13 points for Bose. Unfortunately, that 105 for serial chillers wasn't enough to get in the lead back, and Bose stayed strong through the end of the week. Josh Smith putting up 20 points on Sunday, Semyon putting up 11, and Jackson Merrill on 9 on the other side for serial chillers. That last day was close, 53-50, but Bose had built up a strong enough lead to end up going wire to wire, Monday to Sunday, winning the matchup against serial chillers, 475-401. Bose now slides up to 6-4 near the top of our league. Pardon me. And serial chillers slides down a little bit further to 3-7, now tied for the bottom record down there. Best batters for the week for Bose, we had Josh Naylor, who put up 37.7, and his best pitcher was Zach Eflin, who put up 36.4. The hometown Oriole for Mr. Bose is always nice to see, and I know that Orioles pitching staff has obviously been having some challenges, so hey, good to see one of them showing up for the best pitchers. Over on the other side, J-Ram, who was mentioned a couple times in that recap, obviously putting up a great season as he always does. 40.9 points for serial chillers, also a hometown player. Nice to see. And then, as I mentioned before, Andrew Abbott with that 41.4, of course, just from one start there, but very impressive, showing out as his best pitcher for the week. Our third matchup will be Flaming Prius against Ace. Flaming Prius came into the week 6-3. Ace came into the week 5-4. So Ace was looking for a win, hoping to even their records. And it didn't look so good on the first day when Flaming Prius took a 66-17 lead. Clay Holmes 17 helped him out there. Not so good on day two either when the 192 for Flaming Prius kept the lead against Ace, who had 54. I missed a little bit of math here. I have to be completely honest. This week, progress reports were due for us as teachers, so I was spending a lot of time doing that. Wasn't tracking stats as carefully throughout the week, so please don't hesitate to let me know if I made some mistakes here throughout. Normally, I track it, throughout the week. This time I had to do more of it over the weekend, so it might be a couple mistakes. My apologies for that if that does end up happening. We saw Ace punch back huge with one of those signature big days of his on Wednesday. 134 points for Ace. Flaming Prius had the lead again on Thursday with a 37-12. On Thursday, Junior Caminero put up 19 points. On Friday, Ace struck back with another three-digit performance, a 123. Not too shabby on the other side, though. 82 points from Flaming Prius. Pavetta had 29 on that day for Ace, and Ryan Pepio with 32 for Prius. Friday was the big day when we saw Junior Caminero put up, this was Saturday, which was the big day. Junior Caminero put up 28 points. Josh Lowe, Brent Rooker, both put up 13 points. Nick Lodolo put up 25, and Scooble put up 37. That all totaled out to 125 points for Flaming Prius in a commanding lead over Ace, who scored just 46 points on that day. And Prius did close it out strong, actually, with another three-digit performance, 114 to Ace's 37 on that final day. PCA had 10 for Prius, Hunter Brown with 31, Clay Holmes with 26. The more I look over this, the more I am absolutely blown away by Prius's his pitching staff, man. Holy cow. Nick Lodolo, as we mentioned, has been incredible. Scooble and Skeens are both in there. Hunter Brown, who has been maybe one of the breakout pitching, stories of the season. It is not a surprise that Prius is now tied for the best record in the league. And I don't know that we're going to see him slipping down much more. Those pitching performances, unless there's a big injury, obviously, knock on wood, we don't want that. Those pitching performances are really propelling him, and not too shabby from the bats either. Junior Caminero with 56.8 was one of our best batters for the week. The hometown kid for Flaming Prius. Very impressive season for the young third baseman, and absolutely to no surprise, Hunter Brown back again.
Got him.
As one of our potent pitchers, 61.4 for Flaming Prius. Over on the other side, Ace's first-round draft pick, Ellie De La Cruz, put up 43.2 and showed up as one of our best bats for the week. And Drew Rasmussen, who had 33.7, was his best pitcher. Certainly a bit of a shame for Ace to waste a best bats week on a loss. Of course, it was a pretty commanding win from Prius. I don't know if I read out the final score there, 580 to 425. But Prius, it wasn't one of a close margin. But Ace has certainly got a lot of good stuff cooking. Nick Pivetta, who's been really, really solid to start the year with the Padres, has been great. And, of course, he's got Freddie Freeman. That guy seems pretty good. Sliding on down to our next matchup, we have Hideki versus JMC. Hideki, of course, coming into the week, the dominant, I believe he was 7-2. Yes, that's correct. 7-2 team. JMC, one game below 500, came in at 4-5. I am starting to get a little scared because my words are carrying a weight I did not know they could carry. I am cursing people left and right here with this pod, making sure that, great teams are losing, not so great teams are winning. Great performances suddenly turn into terrible ones the next week. I don't know what is going on. The fantasy gods clearly have been listening to the LDR on Spotify, and I guess I should be careful with my words coming in. Look, I think if I'm remembering correctly, we maybe even mentioned this one as an interesting matchup to keep an eye on. But certainly Hideki was projected, as the favorite in the matchup. Looked that way on Monday when a 93-45 performance gave him the lead. Jonathan Aranda's 14 points and Gosman's 37. Man, has he been good this year. Hideki held the lead again on Tuesday, 88-78 to JMC. Ranger Suarez had 32 for Hideki on that day, and Taj Bradley, 23, and Rodon, 40 points. Boy, Rodon has absolutely looked like the ace the Yankees signed him to be. I hate it, but it is what it is. No, I'm just kidding around. Good for JMC and the Yankee fans. I know, that has been a disappointing signing, and hey, it's good to see him showing out. He's been very important for JMC, putting up 40 points on that Tuesday. Wednesday was a relatively uneventful day, and then with a lead still held by Hideki. On Thursday, we saw Sale put up 33 points for him. Jonathan Aranda, another 11. On Friday, we saw some triple-digit performances from both teams. 116 for Hideki, 114 for JMC. Matt Chapman and Correa both had 10. Framber had 48. And over on JMC's side, Jack Leiter, who's been fantastic when healthy this year, had 26. And Luis Ortiz with 19. Hideki still held the lead and did the same through Saturday with a 68-105 performance, although certainly with that second triple-digit day in a row, JMC was closing the gap on Saturday. Judge had 16, Acuna had 12, and Schwellenbach, who absolutely diced up the Red Sox, had 38 points. So he closed the gap there, and It was enough to bring him within striking distance, and in a shocking twist on Sunday, we saw JMC come back. Hideki had led the entire week through Saturday. JMC came back with a 179 to 84 point performance. Very impressive comeback. Hideki, even on the day he did lose, Bubic put up 30 and Ranger Suarez with another 20. But JMC, we had Ben Rice putting up 8. Taj Bradley with 34, Chris Paddock with 38, and Gavin Williams with 36. Damn impressive showing from JMC as he swipes a win away from the reigning league leader in Hideki, who now sits at 7-3, and JMC slides up to 500 at 5-5. Jonathan Aranda was one of Hideki's best batters, who was tied for 5th place with another one we'll get to later. He had 41.2 points. Framber Valdez with 48.5 points was his best pitcher. I believe that was the not quite Maddox, because I do think he gave up 1 run, but complete game in under 100 pitches. Really impressive from Framber there. And over on the other side, we had Judge, who put up 31.4 for JMC, and Taj Bradley, who he mentioned in the Discord he had considered trading this week. It's a good thing he didn't do that, because 58.3 points for Taj. Cool to see him probably kind of putting it together over there in Tampa. I'm trying to think. No, I am not thinking of the right guy. Taj Bradley has always been a Tampa guy. I'm thinking of Luis Patino, who I thought was going to be absolutely unbelievable as soon as the Rays got him. He ended up being quite bad, and I think plays for the White Sox now. But Taj Bradley, obviously a Rays prospect, has had some, elite arm talent stuff, and had some ups, had some downs. He's been putting together a number of really good performances this year, and it's cool to see him kind of putting it together. Over to our next matchup. I'm so sorry. I didn't read out the final score. Keep forgetting to do that. Our final score for Hideki versus JMC. JMC scored 595 and Hideki with 570. Obviously a huge heavyweight matchup there. Hideki was actually in 3rd place for points behind Prius's 580, but man, that 595 from JMC pushing 600. It does take that to beat Hideki these days, but impressive showing from JMC. Now at 500, and unless I'm mistaken, just one spot back from the playoffs. So good to see, a little bit of a surge over there from JMC. Our 5th matchup is Oki Sooner versus Inten. This was a very interesting matchup in terms of some of those negative points that I mentioned to all of you. Oki Sooner took the lead by 7 points on Monday. It was 67-60. Sal Perez had 9 for him, and Nick Martinez with 24. On the other side, Tyler Stevenson at 13, and Zach Littell, who will come up again later, had 31 points for Inten. On Tuesday, Oki Sooner held the lead with 78-81. Cade Horton with 23 and Burns with 24. Over on Inten side, Yelich had 17 and Singer with 26. Wednesday was really quiet, and Thursday I saw something I've never seen before. At the end of the day, end of the night, Oki Sooner actually had negative points on the day. Negative 0.8 points on the day. I had to mark it down. Obviously, it was just in decimals, but I was like, oh my God, gotta mark this down. Negative points. We've never seen that before. 62 points from Inten on that day. Obviously, a big swing there was enough to give him the lead. Albies had 14 on that day for him. Oki Sooner punched back a little bit the next day. He did score 60 points, but Inten with a triple-digit performance, 105. This was on Friday when we saw Nate Lowe score 11, Lindor with 18, and Yelich with another 17. Really big bat showings there from Inten. And then came Saturday when I saw something I've never seen before again, with a minus 14-point day for Oki Sooner. A tough one on a lot of accounts. Jesus Luzardo, who was that pitcher I mentioned earlier, who gave up 8 runs before recording an out, with minus 26. Manny Machado with minus 2. Sal Perez and Tyler Fitzgerald both with minus 1. Really, really tough performance for Oki, and made even tougher by the fact that Inten scored a massive 153 points on that day. Nimmo with 10. Sonny Gray with 40. Zach Littell again, this time with 33, and Michael Wacha with 36, a recent trade acquisition. Sunday, we had Okie Sooner winning the day 84-28, but the damage had kind of been done in those earlier days in the week. Michael Bush did put up 14 points, and Corbin Burns started with a solid 18, and unfortunately was removed. You can kind of see him. If you read his lips, he was saying like, my arm is dead. Like my arm, I'm done. My arm's dead. So a little scary there. I know for a guy who's put up a lot of innings in the past, first year of a big contract with Arizona, and certainly scary for one of the better pitchers on Okie Sooners staff. In 10, did end up winning the matchup 505-311. That bumps him up in 10, that is, to 3-7, and Okie Sooner down to 4-6. Okie Sooner's best bat for the week was TJ Friedel, who put up 24.9, and the aforementioned Corbin Burns with 43.5 was his best pitcher. Hopefully we'll see him back soon, and he's not out for too long with that injury. Over on the other side, in 10's best batter was Christian Yelich, 38.2, and his best pitcher, Zach Littell, with 64.4 for Littell. One of the few success stories in recent years of the reliever turned starter, and it's really worked out well for Littell. If you didn't hear the drop over me stumbling over my words, he was one of our potent pitchers for the week, was Littell. Our final matchup of the week was Zang versus Al Martinet. I was looking to break a 3-week losing skid against Al Martinet. I came in 4-5, Al Martinet 3-6. Things started off well on Monday where we saw Garrett Crochet scoring 27 points, Tyone scoring 32. That helped give me a 94-56 lead against Al Martinet. Yamamoto with 28 points on that day. Very, very strong. On our next day, we saw Jack Flaherty put up 35 in his first start after a trade earlier that morning. Jeremy Pena on the other side put up 13, held the lead through Tuesday, held the lead through Wednesday as well, but on Thursday, when I only put up 5 points and Al Martinet put up 90, he did swipe that lead back from me. Austin Riley put up 20 points on Thursday. Very impressive there from Atlanta's third baseman. Mackenzie Gore with 31. Al Martinet held the lead on Friday thanks to Kyle Harrison's 25 points. Held the lead on Saturday despite losing the day, 41-35. Holding the lead when Will Warren gives up 20 points, minus 20 points, pardon me, is very, very impressive. Shows how inept some things are over on my end. Pena had 17 points on that day, too, for Al Martinet. And Jackson Churio, 21 for me over there. And then on Sunday, although I did win the day by 84, Al Martinet won the war, scoring 74 points on that last day, which was enough to give him the lead 450-398. 4 straight losses for me. Things are not looking good in Zangland. I am now 4-6. So, for you math folks, I was rocking a solid 4-2 record, feeling pretty good. 4-6, not so much. Al Martinet, with the win this week, also slides up to 4-6, tied in record with me. My best batter for the week, best batter for Zangarang was Jackson Churio with 41.2. Who was one of the league's best batters. He was that batter I mentioned earlier who was tied for 5th place. Garrett Crochet finally getting both of his starts in for me. 64.4 was one of our potent pitchers. And what's this?
Got him.
Another potent pitcher for Zangarang. Jameson Tyone was another one of our best pitchers for the week with 58.2. Over on the other side, Al Martinet had Jeremy Pena, who put up 52.1. Unsurprisingly landed him on the best batters list, and Mackenzie Gore putting up 31.4 was his best pitcher for the week. Good showing from Al Martinet, who I know has made a number of look to the future trades. Look, he is still clearly competitive, or maybe his opponent's just kind of shitty. This week has been especially telling in my sort of free fall that I've been in. A best batter and 2 potent pitchers, and I still lose the matchup. Really shows out to the lack of depth that I have. Doesn't exactly correlate, but Alex Bregman going down has been brutal for me. brutal. Kyle Tucker and him were holding me up with some pretty impressive batting performances, and if things don't continue in the right direction, I may need to consider, I don't know, shaking things up somehow. So not great there, and nice to see Al Martinet sliding back up to 4-6. It's good to see we've got a nice bunch of us sort of tied there just below the playoff line, which we'll begin referencing again soon. Sliding down to our standing segment now, we have a new first place. Mike, sliding up one spot from last week, is now in first place. Tied with him in record, but not in position, is Flaming Prius, also sliding up one spot from last week, who is in second place. And Hideki, down 2 from his place on the mountaintop, still tied, of course, in record with them. 7-3, is down to third place. All alone at, let's see, his record would be 6-4 is Bo's Bros and O's. He is in fourth place, staying where he was from last week. Also staying in fifth place from last week was Big Peach, and staying in sixth place was Ace Garcia. But sliding up 2 spots, just one below the playoff line, as I mentioned earlier, was JMC in seventh. Al Martinet, sliding up 2 spots from last week, holds eighth. Zang slides down 2 spots from last week to 9th place. Okie Sooner slides down 2 spots from last week to 10th place. And Serial Chillers in 11th and in 12th remain at their spots from where they were. 6th place is the playoff line. As we, we're in June now. We're further along than it feels like, for sure. And it's getting late early. Our teams who are, at 500 are kind of at or around the playoff line. If you're below 500, you got a ways to climb. And we are quickly approaching the point where everyone will have played everyone. So those head-to-head matchups, I know we mention every week, it's almost becoming a bit of a cliche now, but they're going to really start factoring in. We even see that at the top of the leaderboard, with Mike being up there at the top. Not to preview too much, but he is obviously tied in record with Hideki, and they'll be facing off next week, something I'm really looking forward to keeping an eye on. Coming down to our bench blunders, we had a collection of 8 from this week. Dalton Varsho was our first one for JMC, of course, one of our winners for the week. He had 12 points on Monday on the bench. Also on Monday, we had Ryan Weathers put up 23 on the bench for Flaming Prius, of course, also in a winning effort, so nothing too serious. Miguel Vargas put up 12 points on my bench on Tuesday. That wasn't my loss, but not by 12 points, so that's, it is what it is. Brenton Doyle with 10 points on Tuesday for Mike. Brian Reynolds with 18 points on Tuesday, also for Mike. A couple of tough, benching of outfielders there for Mike. He did come away with the win, of course, so not anything to worry too much about. Same is true for in 10, who left Christian Walker on his bench for 10 points, also on Tuesday. Bit of a tough day for blunders. Marcus Semien with one of the highest batters ones I think we've seen, 18 points on Friday for Bose. Tough showing. And then Chad Patrick, who had 27 points, was also on Bo's bench on Saturday. But of course, Bo's one of our winners for the week. Didn't matter too much. Those are our bench blunders. We'll now slide down to our wasted waivers. And we're going to end this off with a little bit of a game. We'll start off with Max Muncy. He is the, obviously, Dodgers infielder, listed now just as a third baseman. He put up 49.7 points first at Cleveland and then versus the Yankees. Fair warning. 25 points of it, so about half of it there, did come on Saturday, which was in their big blowout win against New York. Muncy has not had the strong year that he has in the past, so, proceed with caution, but sometimes those big performances can be, what a batter needs to get them going. Ernie Clement, utility infielder for the Blue Jays, is our other wasted waiver bat. He has second base, third base, and shortstop eligibility, so, he can be moved around there quite a bit on the infield. He put up 45.9 points at Texas and then versus the Athletics, and pretty solid performances across the week. He did have a couple double-digit ones, I believe a 17 and a 12, so obviously, stronger there, but solid stuff from Ernie Clement, and that flexibility makes him a pretty valuable asset, so keep an eye on him if you need a fill-in in your infield. Ryan Yarborough, Yankees pitcher, put up 61.4 points this week. Huge numbers for a starting pitcher. I believe that would have landed him certainly in uh, some of our potent pitchers. But he did it all on the waivers. Did Yarborough. I don't know how sustainable it is. I can't say I watched either one of the Yankees games. This was 32.2 at the Angels and then 29.2 at the Dodgers there for Yarby. So, hey, he's obviously had some up and down performances in the past, but Yankees and what's the bullpen coach's name? Matt Bush, I want to say. If I get that wrong, I'm so sorry. But he has obviously done a ton of work as their pitching coach pardon me, not bullpen coach, pitching coach. He works magic with pitchers there. So, Yarborough, if you need a starter, it could be somebody, especially if he puts up some more performances next week. All right, now here's our game. I was going to do a little more trivia with Ace. Of course, unfortunately, Ace is not here, so I'm going to have you all guess. I'm going to give a few hints as to who this pitcher is because my jaw fell on the floor when I saw who it was. This is another one who would have been in our potent pitchers for the week. He put up 58.8 points, 24.7 in his first start, and 34.1 in his second start. All right. So for your first guess, you can say guess out loud. I'll give let's say 5 seconds to think after I kind of give each clue. Your first clue is this is pretty much the last pitcher you would expect this year. Your second hint: this player plays for an AL East team, although they're certainly not thought of as a member of that team. Your last little clue that I'll give you, think about salt. Did you guess? Charlie Morton? I don't know how you could have. That last clue is kind of a giveaway. But before that, I don't know how you could have. But Charlie Morton put up 58.8 points this week. Who knew? Saltman still got it. Snapping the Uncle Charlie. Look, he's been a phenomenal pitcher in this league. He has looked more washed than the dishes this year, but put up a couple big performances. That 24.7 versus St. Louis and then 34.1 versus the White Sox. Obviously not the stiffest competition there on the second one, but you never know. Maybe Morton's figuring something out, and that can be nothing but good over there for the Orioles. Our transaction tracker is our next spot. We did have a couple of trades to cover this week. Our first one was obviously pretty fun, involved some draft picks. We had Ace trading Brenton Doyle and a 2026 second-round pick over to Mike for Tyler Mahle and a 2026 third-round pick. So it's another one of those where it's kind of a swap. Basically, Ace will now have 2 third-round picks, and Mike will have 2 second-round picks. Mahle has been a consistent, presence in the potent pitchers throughout the year. Pardon me, I'm running out of words here. But he's been very impressive out in Texas, has Mahle. Brenton Doyle, young outfielder for the Rockies. Obviously we talk about how valuable that can be. Interesting pickup. Obviously for Mike there. Unfortunately, he did show up on those bench blenders for a moment, but good reinforcement in the outfield. And then Tyler Mahle can, maybe help out Ace's pitching staff, who has taken a few hits. Our second trade was between me and Serial Chillers. This happened at the beginning of the week. At the time, it was meant to be a little bit of a win later versus win now move. It looks like I might need a few more win later moves as things move along. I traded young Marlins pitcher Max Meyer over to Serial Chillers for Jack Flaherty. Just speaking from my own perspective here, Flaherty's obviously a little bit more consistent. Tigers much better team. So although he is a bit older and Meyer is certainly on the rise, I worry a lot about the Marlins. I've talked about winning environments before and how important I think that is for good play. So I worry a bit about Meyer, although he's had an impressive start to the year and felt like Flaherty could put up some more consistency, which he certainly did do in that first start for me. But looks like maybe I do need some young arms if the ship doesn't turn around pretty soon on the old Zangarang. So we'll see how that one works out. And for Serial Chillers, who is pretty openly declared he's kind of doing a little bit of a rebuild, a little bit of a retool, and looking to the future, gets a young arm in Max Meyer that can definitely help him out there. Our last segment for the week will be next week's notes. Our first matchup, we've got In 10, who is 3-7, going up against Bose, who is 6-4. Matchup number 2 is the one I previewed for you a little bit earlier. Mike at 7-3 versus Hideki, also at 7-3. In all likelihood, we're going to have a new lead. Well, we're going to have a clear leader in the league. I guess I shouldn't say that. Flaming Priya 7-3 as well. Could be tied, but one of them does have to lose. So at the very most, they will be tied for the top. That is the heavyweight of all heavyweight matchups. We're certainly going to be keeping a close eye on that one. Our next matchup, number 3, we've got Serial Chillers at 3-7 going up against Ace at 5-5. JMC at 5-5 will be taking on Zangarang at 4-6. The old New York versus Boston rivalry going on there. Al Martinet at 4-6 will be taking on Flaming Prius at 7-3, looking to stay tied atop the leaderboard record-wise. And finally, our 6th matchup, Big Peach at 5-5 will be taking on Oki Sooner at 4-6. We're getting closer, folks. The trade deadline is looming. The first year of this league, I think everyone initially drafted to win now, as you do when you draft. It hasn't worked out for everyone. And I have a feeling that we are going to see some bigger swings after the trade deadline passes. Couple months out still, but it's weighing heavy on my mind. And, we are seeing some of those pretty clear future for present trades starting to happen. Maybe even some more in the works. You never know. So a lot to keep our eye on. Certainly excited to see what our standings look like when I talk to you this time next week. And good luck to everyone. I apologize for any curses I may have laid upon you or your players, and we'll see you next week.
Do you know what that makes you, Larry?
Lollygaggers.
Lollygaggers.